what did you do to make your parents divorce?
Very funny. The messaging I got all growing up in Christian school and church and everything was that divorce was really wrong and bad. And you felt bad for divorced families and divorced kids, and it was like the end of the world. I mean, in the 90s, in Christian 90s world, it was bad, and it was happening a lot more often. So it was like happening all around. It was like, who's next? It's like getting a disease or something. Like a disease was spreading. The divorce disease was spreading. And so that happened to me at first.
Divorced parents are like herpes.
Yeah.
Everybody's got them. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 20th episode of People Fuss. My name is Doug Daniels.
I'm Carrie Prince.
And we are here to discuss the fuss about people, the stories and news around human connection and disconnection in life, in love, and in leadership. Carrie Prince, what are we talking about today?
In another life, you are an announcer. I mean, I really feel like you enjoy it. Today's episode is actually focused on disconnection
dun, dun, dun.
of the biggest kind. We're talking about divorce.
Dun, dun, dun.
We're talking about divorce kind of during the holidays, which is a weird topic to talk about during the holidays. But I was actually a little bit interested in this topic because Amy Schumer and her husband are getting divorced after all these rumors.
Nothing to do with us, guys. Don't worry. We're fine, I think.
And, you know, I had this little pang when I read it because she built a whole series of a TV series around that was kind of inspired by her own relationship. And she's talked a lot about it. Her husband's on the autism spectrum, which is very close to my heart and our hearts and my family's heart in terms of our relationship to the special ed world and stuff. And so I had this little pang when I read it. And the pang, unfortunately, was like, I wish I could say it was like more meaningful, like I know Amy and I know this is such a tough time. The pang was that it like reflected back on a truth I thought about the world. And so today's episode is going to be exploring divorce and guilt. And this gentleman right here actually has some personal experience with divorce.
More than you.
A lot more than me.
More than you.
We both are children of divorce. He has been divorced.
That's right.
And we are not technically married.
Dun, dun,
we are
dun.
in a non-marriage situation, but we treat it a lot like a marriage. And I thought for any modern couples out there that wonder about getting into a long-term monogamous relationship that's not bound by a marriage contract.
Wait, did you just say monogamous? Is that
Very funny.
Okay, I'm just kidding.
He thinks it's so funny. Did we have that? No, I'm just kidding. Maybe we could shed some light on how it works for us. Not that we're perfect, but I thought it might be nice for you to hear someone that isn't holding marriage on a pedestal, because I certainly don't. But I do think relationships are the most important thing for human happiness. So I square those two things, I promise you. So we're going to get into those topics. The first thing I want to do, though, is you know how much we love facts and stats,
That's
Douglas.
right. That is right.
Take us into it. Let's go for some Pew Research Center, can we?
Pew, such a classic research center.
Pew.
It's one of my favorites of all the research centers.
Pew.
I'm a Pew kind of guy. The first fact about divorce is that divorce has been declining since the early 1980s. And I'm not going to read anything below that because I'd rather share my own opinion about what I think the reason is.
Oh, okay.
Women have a choice now. They're not like fucking, rushed into these small, you're going to go marry Billy Bob kind of situations.
Poor Billy.
I mean, I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I think he'd also want a wife that loves him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's less pressure on young people generally. I think it's not just women, but young folks generally.
Along with that, do you think, because our last episode we were talking a lot about how modern relationships, especially for millennials and younger, we talk a lot about matching with people because of shared values, and you're talking about women having a choice, which and the way that we think about getting together with people now is about shared values and love and commitment. Do you think people in general are more careful about their choice and their alignment now?
Yeah, and actually I just scrolled down to the two sentences that gave the reason why. I guess I should. But it's a similar thought line. Over time, the married population has shifted towards adults with higher levels of education, and adults with more education are less likely to divorce. And I think that more education doesn't mean that you're smarter; it just means that you're older and wiser. because you can't have more education and be younger, I guess. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense. But to me, I read that to be like more world-wise people when they get married, which means that they're not kind of jumping into the puppy love trap
Yeah.
of marrying high school sweethearts. Not that that is wrong, obviously. We know couples that have been together for a very, very long time and seem very happy. So anyway.
I think that definitely is a really big positive that we don't talk about enough, that divorce rates are declining. People are making better choices.
In this godless country.
Yeah.
Full of gays and trans.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. And it's fewer divorces.
And actually, I mean, I know this from other statistics that I've looked at. Gay men have the lowest rate of divorce, above lesbians and straight couples.
I was going to say, don't lesbian women have a higher rate of divorce?
Yeah, they get into it pretty quick still.
Wow.
I know. But, you know,
I feel like that exonerates us guys in some way. Doesn't it, though?
Nope,
doesn't it, though?
Lower rates of abuse, so you guys are still in the shitter.
Well, you know, there's that.
So, second fact, one exception to this is the amount of people that are divorcing after 50. It's called gray divorce, and that has increased. And we could probably point to very similar factors to what we just talked about.
Yep.
Misalignment of values because the way and the reasons that you married for were very different.
But also, I think the judicial system has become more generous towards, I'm just going to say, partners who have been in the relationship for such a long time that they don't have a means to support themselves. And so they're more generously being taken care of in the divorce proceedings, say.
Yeah.
Like, you know, as it should be. I think.
And that has leveled off, which kind of makes sense if you think about generationally, like where that gap is. So there was finally this sort of like the floodgates were open, and like you're saying, like divorce was less shamed, potentially way less devastating for the female, and even potentially kids, because there's a lot more support networks. There's a lot more divorced kids around. It's a little more normalized.
I still saw a TikTok video actually recently about a woman who was like kind of announcing, again, you know, people share everything on their social media, but basically explaining her financial situation. She's been a housewife for the last 6-7 years or something, and her husband is leaving her and taking his credit cards, and she has like, you know, she's like, what am I going to do now, kind of thing. You know? So that still happens, unfortunately.
And divorce is expensive, even if you do it cheaply. And I wonder too if people, because our generation and younger, we're pretty strapped for life things in terms of big money and assets. I wonder if people are just more careful. They're like, I don't want to get married because divorce is expensive, and I don't have money for a house and rent and a car. I don't know.
I mean, I didn't really have that. I mean, I don't know. We can talk about my divorce later, but
the cloud of doom is swirling.
No, it's not that. It's like depending on how you look at it. I either had a very cheap divorce or an incredibly expensive divorce.
Yeah,
which is kind of funny.
Yeah, that is funny.
Okay, fact number 3: 4 in 10 divorces occur in the first decade of marriage.
Yeah, 4 in 10,
and almost
40%.
This is what I found almost more interesting, actually. Almost 1/4 of divorces occur after 25 years or more of marriage. And I want to know the percentage of those marriages that are because the dude is like going for some young bimbo or something, you know, like a trophy wife. Like, I wonder how many of those are that, because I feel like, you know,
I like your instinct to blame the guy. That's very nice of you.
Well, you see it happen a lot. The
4 in 10 before first decade of marriage. First of all, same as Amy Schumer, right? Like they've been together.
Same as me.
They were married about 7 years, and you were married about 7 years. And then if I think back to Helen Fisher, who we have mentioned episodes ago, she was a very celebrated love historian. She would talk about this 7-year itch kind of thing being potentially a real thing evolutionarily. And I just think that's interesting, because every time I look at stats, it does kind of support what she was saying.
You know, we do come from the animal kingdom, and we are still part of it. But
yeah. All right, next one.
Divorced men are less likely than married men to be employed.
Yikes.
Well, that might be why they're divorced in the first place.
Could be, yeah. And this is not single, right? This is divorce. So this is someone that's been in a relationship and then has been divorced. I just think that's a really clear distinction. So it's like you were single at one point, you got married, and then now you're single again. You're divorced and single.
I wonder if you could dig into that, and maybe there would be some through line there about this, what we call and have called toxic masculinity, and part of why it's so bad for men and women is that it puts so much pressure on men to be the sole survivor of the marriage. No, the sole provider for that family, which is not really possible or feasible in the modern world. And so they crash and burn out and end up divorced and unemployed.
Yeah. And that's actually what this stat is saying, is that this doesn't mean that divorce leads to unemployment. It's more that the unemployment leads to divorce. Yeah. That the stats go a little deeper than that. But next one is divorced adults have lower household incomes and less wealth than married adults. And we know this to be true for a very, very long time. And that's actually one of the hardest things that I think I have grappled with in the past, even in my single years, of thinking like, it's going to be harder if I do life by myself. I'm going to have to really create my own safety nets and like figure this out so that if, this is a child of divorce thinking, right? My family was very well-to-do for a short period of time, and then we lost a lot of that financial safety net, and I didn't have money for college or braces or, I didn't have money stored up somewhere for me in the future. My mom got her ass into higher education, got a really good job, and helped me get through college and gave me little bits of safety nets until this day. So like the idea that like if you don't have lower rent with someone, you got to make more money, you got to hustle harder. Like on the female side of that, there's this hugely different pressure, I think, about all that, because you're also less likely to make as much as your male counterparts and all that stuff. So I will say the benefits of being with someone just as in terms of sharing rent and some bills is a relief even.
Yeah, hell yeah. Especially sharing that with somebody who has a source of income of their own.
Yeah. Two working people.
Two working people. Yeah, this is a bit of a duh, but interestingly, and we'll talk about one of the reasons why we have domesticated one another instead of marrying each other, has to do with money.
Yep.
Number 7. About 2/3 of Americans who have divorced have gone on to remarry.
Yep, it's a lot.
Yeah.
You can find love again. I don't think that's a surprising stat for anyone. We know that lots of people marry multiple times, and but I think if you had never met me, you would get married again. I believe that about you.
That's probably true. There's no real gender gap there. So, for example, divorced men are slightly more likely than women to remarry, 68 to 64%, respectively. So, not a big difference there.
Yeah,
either.
I like how many people are just like gung ho to get back on the horse. That makes me feel good.
Yeah. Sex is a powerful motivator.
That's not in the stats. Pew Research didn't measure that one. Last one. Some 9% of men and 4% of women have a stepchild who they live with. And that's among Americans who have divorced and are currently remarried. Not a surprising stat there, but I think stepchildren, like this is something that we both are connected to people that are our parents' newer partners, people. And it's like the idea of extended family and mixed family and all that, like that's very normalized now.
I think so.
I don't even think this stat is all that meaningful for people who live in the world. They're like, yeah, duh.
9 and 4% isn't, yeah, I don't know. The disparity there is kind of interesting, and I wonder why that is, but.
Does it say?
No.
All right, maybe we'll dig deeper into that one.
Maybe.
Well, speaking of like children and stepchildren and, mixed families, both of us are children of divorced parents, and it happened at about the same time. Yep. How old were you? Do you remember?
I should, but I don't. Like 12 to 13. Around there.
Mine was a little bit later, but I would say like the problems started for me or were visible to us when I was probably 12, 13. And then the divorce actually didn't happen, finalized. We moved out until I was 15.
Yeah, no, I remember being in, I think it was 7th grade when we split. When we split, they split.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to remember. I mean, it's weird when you're a kid, all the things kind of blur together.
Yeah.
So what did you do to make your parents divorce?
Very funny. I think I was a very naive, happy child, honestly. And like, this was the question I had for you. When you think back to that time, was it a relief that this thing had happened, or was it like, please, no, don't do this?
I think it was for me, it was more of a relief. I think both these people are miserable, like, can we just kind of move on from this?
I also have a reflection that it was, I mean, again, different story, but like, I was ready and I was on board for the split. And I think that's really important for people that are scared of divorcing to remember that, like, even adult children thinking back can see that as a point of relief. And if you're staying in it and, like you said, you're miserable,
your kids pick that up.
Yeah, and you're probably doing a disservice. So I feel like I've heard of stories where, in fact, one of our close friends has told me that her parent, stay together for the kids until the kids basically go to college and then they split up.
Yeah.
That's a really common sentiment and story. And I've heard about that story a couple times, but I think what's weird is, like, now as an adult, thinking back to my mom as a whole person, and this person thinking back to her parents as whole people, that was better in some way than them being authentic in the family. That doesn't jive. Like, if you are secretly miserable but you're just sort of keeping it together for the kids, are you really is that the best thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I would understand if the children then felt a greater sense of betrayal. Like, was all of my childhood a lie then? Like, were the happy times that I remember actually happy? Was my mom miserable the whole time? That sort of thing. But I remember,
or dad, depending on the situation.
Sure. Yeah, to be fair. Now that I'm thinking about that again as an adult, I think my parents did a really good job of shielding me and my brother, or at least me, I should just say, for me, shielding me from the technical difficulty of a divorce, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, they never bitched about the house and the bills.
I was aware of the messiness. I don't know that I couldn't have been, because I was at that age where I was like 16 and driving, but it was impossible for me to not know or think about some of the technical difficulties, because our cars were my dad's company cars. Those had to go back. We had to get a new car for my mom and figure that out. She was, trying to figure things out, and it affects our lives, right? Like, I was smart and I knew, and I was working and making a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I could have been, she never ever said disparaging things about him, but when a parent is struggling, I think there's some obvious things that happen there. But, but overall, it was like a relief all the time.
Yeah, I want to say it was also a relief in some ways. Again, I'm just trying to separate, like, in my mind, me being a shitty teenage boy from all the rest of it.
There is this thing that I think we have in common, which is that there was a parent that we gravitated towards and sort of sided with, for lack of a better term, and not all divorces are like that. So I think this is like a very, one perspective sort of conversation.
But that's another one of those things that we found we had in common, which is, a good thing, I think.
Mom's rebuilding in midlife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a huge well of gratitude for the divorce happening at the time it did for me, because, like I said, I think I was a pretty naive child in some ways, and partly that's to do with a Christian upbringing. And so when the divorce first happened, like the very first time those words were uttered, I definitely had a crazy meltdown as a child. I wasn't cool with it. I wasn't ready for it. I didn't want it. And I think a huge part of that is because the messaging I got all growing up in Christian school and church and everything was that divorce was really wrong and bad. and you felt bad for divorced families and divorced kids, and it was like the end of the world. I mean, in the 90s, in Christian 90s world, it was bad, and it was happening a lot more often. So it was like happening all around. It's like, who's next? It's like getting a disease or something.
Yeah,
like a disease was spreading. The divorce disease was spreading. And so that happened to me at first.
Divorced parents are like herpes.
Yeah.
Everybody's got them.
Oh my God. Perfect analogy, babe. That's great.
Oh, thank you.
Let's talk more about herpes. Anyway, no, I had that reaction at first at meltdown, and then something happened over the next 2 years where I got really, I turned into like a pull your bootstraps up kind of person. My grades didn't drop because I didn't want anyone to feel sorry for me, and I knew that I didn't have to be the victim. Like the grandpa thing kicked in. I've talked about this. That grit kicked the fuck in. And I was like, oh no, I'm getting into school and I'm doing the thing and no one can tell me otherwise.
I'm smiling because I did not have such
No, you had
response.
an opposite reaction.
My response was like, oh, there's half the number of eyes watching me now. Like, let's see what I can get away with. Oh, my mom has to like pull doubles and go back to school and bust her ass to keep shit together, which means I can, slack off a whole bunch, which I did.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a bit of like the dad figure breaking. And for me, the strongest figure for me was my mom figure, which I still had. Like just in terms of role models and guidance in puberty or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're advocates for kids in the foster care system. And so our job is to make sure that the decisions being made about them for them are in their best interest. And there was no such, in my view, like service for children of divorce, which I think is unfortunate.
But you bring up an interesting point about like maybe a school resource even, but how would that school resource know? And then how would a kid at school feel that, like at my school, it was like a big school. It was in Carlsbad. I was not really into high school and I just thought it was dumb. I don't know. I just thought high school was kind of dumb. I was ready to be out. But if a counselor, if there was something more well known at the culture of the school, that if your parents are getting divorced, that you could go talk to the counselor. I have no recollection of anything like that. I don't even know if I knew there was like a mental health or counselor like that at my school.
Yeah, I don't know either. And it's not, for me, at least, I mean, I was already kind of self-ostracized by playing Magic: The Gathering in high school and junior high. So, like, being a kid of divorce wouldn't have affected me negatively if it was, like, known publicly by the school or something. But I get that there are a lot of logistical problems with a service like that.
Can I ask a little bit of a tough question, which is like, did you not feel you could say what you wanted? Because one thing is being asked, but then another is like, I probably was very loud about my requests. I mean, when I think about myself, I'm like, my mom probably didn't have to ask because I probably was telling her.
I've never really had a problem sharing my opinion about things. So I don't know as if that would have been an issue necessarily. I mean, the way things worked out, I think, is the right way as far as custody and stuff and visitation and everything is concerned.
Okay, so given your experience as a child of divorced parents, now we're going to jump into your own divorce, which you can reveal as much or as little as you want. But I kind of want to know just like your overall feelings on divorce. If someone was like, Douglas Daniels, how do you feel about divorce?
I think it is a necessary mechanism in any healthy society.
Okay, good answer.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your own divorce from your first wife?
Well, there were financial decisions that were made during the marriage that made a lot of sense that in hindsight were the wrong decisions to make for me. Student loan related.
So if you could go back in time and have the exact same relationship, this is kind of speaking to what I was going to ask you about regret. Everything would be the same except for the fact that you got married with this person. Would you go back in time and remove just the marriage piece, the contract?
Ooh. My mind is going to the money question.
Yeah.
And I would have to say no. I don't think that would have been the smart thing for us to do.
Because you did get like taxes were better.
Taxes were better, and that was, I think that was the only, because we're living in L.A. Like we're not buying houses and stuff. We didn't have that many assets, so it made sense for us to be married, her to be a dependent. We got a vacation when the taxes came back every year.
Yeah. Okay, so the financial savings during the marriage, though, you think makes up for the like cost of the divorce, which I know wasn't super high, and you wouldn't have maybe made though the same financial decisions you did with student loans if you weren't legally married.
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if I could say that with any real certainty, because I don't know as if it was the contract that made me think like, oh, I'm going to be married to this person for my whole life, so I might as well help with the debt kind of thing. Like I'd like to think I would have still done that. And I don't know as if legally it would have changed anything.
Well, I think all this money talk is a great launch into how we are not married.
That's right. We domesticated
mostly
each other.
because of who?
You?
Me, really.
Okay. I was like,
while it's most girls' dreams to get married, I didn't ever have big feelings about it in terms of like, I didn't dream about a wedding dress. I'm actually not into a lot of the things about marriage. I see it through a historical and feminist lens, and it's really tough for me to not hate parts of it because it historically has trapped women and saved them. It saved them and trapped them. So it's
it was touch and go for a while there, guys. When I got in touch with her dad and asked for a property transfer contract, and I showed it to Carrie, and she said, "I don't approve." And it was awkward for a while.
That never happened.
Yeah.
No, but it used to.
It used to.
No, but one of the funny things is like I am a practical person. So what I really do see marriage in modern day when people are really like, they say they're marrying for love, but that's not what the contract is. The contract doesn't say you promise to love this person forever. That's what your vows say, and that's what your friends and family think about you, but that's not what the contract with the government says. The contract with the government says this is what happens now. When you die, this happens. This is what happens with assets. This is what you're obligated to financially. That's what the contract does. So if you're cool with that contract, which a lot of people are, and they're like on board, then it makes sense to sign that contract. So to that end, I do not disagree with having a contract in a relationship that benefits you financially. Such a cold way to talk about marriage. I know.
Prenups are right up your alley then.
Prenup is the same as a marriage. Prenup is a negotiated marriage contract, right? So everybody should at least look at what they might want to do to the marriage contract. The marriage contract is a draft. And if you're fine with the draft, great. But most people don't even know what the draft is.
I didn't. I mean, I sure as shit didn't. I wonder if there's probably different drafts for each state. And what's cool is you could just load up ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or something, plug that contract into that AI, and then get a summary or something and actually read it now.
Yeah. So I don't have issues with, again, monogamy or long-term, it's not that I ever didn't think of myself with a person, for many, many years of my life being together with them. I didn't count on it or think that was going to be the end all be all. That wasn't, I always say this even about children. It wasn't this goal that I wouldn't be happy without.
Yeah.
Because I could imagine myself with lots of different kinds of happiness in my life.
I thought you were going to say lots of different kinds of partners.
You did, didn't you? You got scared. Oh my God. Ooh, little heat shot up. I think I saw it happen, like a little steam come out of your headphones. No, happiness. And so, of course, when talks of moving in together happened, actually that happened really quickly, which for me, I think is unusual. But the timing of it was a financial decision because I was about to lose my W-2 income. My cat had just died, and we knew we couldn't move in together with 3 cats because it's impossible in LA to find a great place that'll accept 3 animals.
Not just that, but the animals getting along.
Yeah, it was just a little too much for our lives at the time. And so getting approved for an apartment at that time, I knew that it was going to be way harder if we even waited 2 months. So when we talked about it, it was a really rational decision. And so that first one, which, there's all sorts of stupid stats about moving in versus marriage and all that. None of that stuff mattered to me because marriage was not this guilt-ridden sort of concept for me anymore. But moving in together actually was a really big deal to me because that's like sharing responsibility for money and rent and things that, in a much bigger way, and then negotiating grumpiness and all that in a different way. You don't know what I'm talking about? No, of course you don't. No. But then the second thing that happened was talking about like what are the financial benefits that we could get at as a couple. And because we both had student loans and we were looking at taxes and we were looking at all these things, marriage at the time that we were talking about it was not beneficial, but I was going to lose my health insurance a couple years later. Nice health insurance through UCLA. I had UCLA through my union. He had UCLA health insurance, and I was thinking like, I don't want to go back on the marketplace. I want to keep my doctor and all my things, and it's really nice health insurance. So we literally signed a domestic partnership because we love each other and we live together, but also because of the financial benefit and the medical benefit, I should say. Yeah.
It would be nice if we could live in a society where marriage wasn't motivated by these kinds of things.
I know. Do you think it's at all fair that like a single person that's 40 years old doesn't get money benefits? It's not fair.
No, I was fucking livid the first year I did my taxes, and I was like breaking even essentially. And I was expecting a couple grand back or something. It was just infuriating that it's the tax system. I mean, I guess I understand it from like a government point of view, like encourage people to, have children and build family units and stuff because the economists say that family unit stability, blah, 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 that sort of thing. But I don't know. I feel like
you were able to claim her as a dependent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like the big thing. So for kids, I think that tax benefits, married or not, kids, you should get benefits. Like 100%, that would make sense no matter what the marriage thing is. But I think even people that like, I just feel like the idea of a contract between people that want to like make things cheaper, or the rules around owning property. Someone told me one time, like the only reason I got married to my husband when I did is because we knew we were going to buy property together, and it makes it so much easier. And the way she said it, I was like, I believe you, because it was a thing. They had tried with different last names. There's like a whole thing, and she's like, it is so much easier to build assets, as we saw in the stats, buy assets, build assets, and do all that stuff as a couple, and you do have more safety nets there.
And once you start having kids, I had a boss, my mentor, she originally kept her maiden name when she got married because she was like, why do I have to give up my name kind of thing. But then they had a kid, and the kid has the dad's last name, and it was just a pain in her ass to pick the kid up from like daycare because of the different last name sort of thing,
Yeah.
So she eventually just kind of gave in and was like, screw it, I'll just, change my name. And then I was just kind of teasing her. I was like, you can't get away from the patriarchy either way. Either that's your dad's name or your husband's name. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. There's a lot of giving in, I think, when it comes to this stuff too, because it's just easier. There's a whole funnel. It's all set up, right, from very like Christian values that we have had for a very long time.
Yeah.
But there's, going back to Helen Fisher, there's lots of different ways that this stuff works in other countries and throughout history and throughout the world. And, our way is not necessarily the best or right way, but there are interesting things that are happening now, and I think you can kind of like game the system. Like we've considered what some people have done, which is like going in on a bigger property with friends and making like a small friend village to save on money and stuff. I mean, people are getting really creative with stuff these days.
Yeah, there's like a place in Arkansas you can go where there's only white people.
Oh God, yeah, that's a scary one. But anyway, our sort of non-marriage, it's a domestic partnership, which is only what gay couples only had the option to be for a long time. So we're basically have the same rights and privileges as what gay couples had for many years.
Hey.
Yeah. And I can, what I like about that whole sort of marriage thing was that I think what a lot of, couples were going for was like the meaning behind what marriage, the meaning that people have in their minds for marriage, which is about love and respect for a couple that's like official and government sanctioned. And then there are some extra rights and privileges for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, do you think that being in a non-marriage with me is less pressure and there's less guilt over like things like divorce or, you know, how people think about you?
Two things. So when I say partner, sometimes I think that they're thinking that I have a non-binary or a gay partnership or something like that. And I actually sometimes find myself referring to you with they, them, just to screw with people because, like, yeah, I want to normalize that anyway. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is that we don't wear wedding rings.
But we've considered that.
We've considered it, and I don't know if it's – well, you've never worn an engagement ring and a wedding ring, so I don't know if you would know the difference. I notice a difference. Like, I noticed a difference when I was wearing a wedding ring with the way that women – treated me in the world.
This is juicy.
Yeah, like they treated me like I was safer, and like they relaxed more around me. They weren't as afraid to do small talk.
We can get you a ring.
I'm just saying it's just and obviously this is just anecdotal, but and my ex-wife confirms, like, yeah, because you know I've been sane washed by the person that gave me the ring, you know, so that like.
Yeah.
Other women in the world know
pre-approved
that there's at least one woman who trusts this man.
Yeah. So I think the confusion part, this is where people who maybe like are in a non-traditional relationship or a non-marriage, as I like to say, like anything that is a strong relationship between two people, defining it for others is still pretty tricky.
Yeah.
Partner, I say significant other a lot. I'll say honey sometimes.
Honey bun.
Honey buns. And I have used the word husband a few times when I'm talking to someone who I know is more conservative.
It's just easier.
It's easier and then they don't freak out.
I've done that a couple of times with my soccer buddies too.
Yeah.
It's like, just my wife, whatever.
Esposa?
Well, yeah. It's just,
oh my goodness.
What, partner? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
So I don't care about the word partner, and when people tell me, I don't really assume anything anymore because I have that experience, but whatever. But I think even for our family, it's tricky because they're like, is it my stepdaughter? Should I introduce her that way? The introductions thing can get tricky. I don't have the answer yet, but I will say just being honest and fun about it, and people relax.
Like there was a time where I could tell that my brother and sister-in-law didn't quite know if you were Aunt Carrie yet.
Yeah, actually, that's the funniest one, isn't it? Especially because I'm Aunt Carrie to a bunch of friends' kids. Like, I had no blood relation. So to me, I was like, you can call me Aunt Carrie even if we're not actually legally related, you know? But it was, every family has their different sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm down to be, Auntie Carrie for anyone. But, yeah, that's a funny one.
Then there was one other kind of, I'm sure you know these kinds of people. My late grandmother on my dad's side, when I got first married with my first wife, her reaction was just such a like Christian boomer, or not boomer, but like older. You know what I mean? Like she was, oh, thank goodness you guys are getting married. I was worried that you wouldn't, because we'd been living together for like a few months or so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, all right, old mom.
Yeah. So a couple more fun things, and then we're wrapping this episode up. Instead of a wedding, what did we have?
A love party.
We did.
And a 40th birthday.
Yeah, it was a love party, 40th birthday extravaganza. We did it themed. We did it 1920s to 40s, so everybody dressed up. We got all of our friends and family together. There wasn't a ceremony with any vows, but we did have some really heartfelt speeches from some people around us. We did a custom bingo game where it was like very participatory. We had dancing, we had tacos.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really big party for all intents and purposes. Lots of people have called it our wedding. We refer to it as the love party because I think that's what it was celebrating. It wasn't celebrating a contract. It was celebrating two people that just want to have fun and get their families together. For the longest time, he was like, I don't care about marriage and I don't care about the wedding part, but like I really want a party for our families. And I was like, I totally get it.
Yeah, and it was a lot of fun, and it was one of the rare excuses where you can like count on your family. Like, you're coming to town, we're doing this thing, we're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
And you're also, it's nice to be the center of attention at one of those things. It's
Yeah.
just nice to be like, this is for us.
Also, we looked hot as shit, I will say. I love those photos.
Truth.
Okay. And then lastly, like day to day, I want to know this from your perspective too. Like, what do you think the day to day feeling is that's different in a domestic partnership versus a marriage? Is there anything really different in your opinion?
In my experience, marriages are two people that are less mature and less stable than domestic partnerships. It's really, I only have a sample size of one for each of these things. So, and the variable factor is you, my dear.
Yeah. Okay. Fair.
It's less so the label. I mean, so again, to go back, my first marriage, we didn't really have a wedding either. We just kind of eloped at the courthouse. She and I shared kind of a lot of views about the wedding as far as, you know, there was no religious connotation to anything that we were doing, sort of thing. So there are still a lot of similarities between that, what we did, and this one, just because it was similarly like she wasn't, you know, she didn't spend her youth dreaming of a big wedding kind of thing or whatever. It wasn't that big a deal. So similar, very similar in a lot of ways. To me. For me, anyway.
Yeah. All right. And then the last thing is just like the pressure of being maybe like the head of the household, the caretaker, the person providing. Like, yes, I'm a very different person. But even the way we treat money, like we don't have a shared bank account. We do have a shared loan on a car, which I pay every month. So basically, like I
give her money though.
Yeah, we actually kind of act more like roommates in some ways with money. And like my old car, basically that got just recently was like paid off. He needed a new car, and we were like, well,
it's like brother and sister when it comes to money, I'd say.
Oh,
not roommates. I don't know if I would go on a car loan with a roommate, but if my brother needed help, I would do that.
Yeah, it still feels very family, but I've never desired to like combine everything, and I'm way more neurotic about like budgets and stuff than he is, and so I didn't see that as actually like a need to combine everything because we might not be on the same page about how we manage money.
Once
so
you
why?
start, because I mean, you know, once you start making significantly more than me, I think we should combine finances.
Well, that was another funny thing when we first got together. I made a little bit more, and then now you make a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you might make a lot of bit more pretty soon. We'll see. But the way we handle money, I think, is a lot different than most married couples, especially if they share accounts and like they kind of see everything that the other person does. And in some ways that requires a lot of trust between us, because what you spend on and maybe your irresponsible spending. Everybody's had like a time where they, you know, get a weed drink from the store that they shouldn't be spending on. Or
where did that come from? It just popped into your head.
Or in my case, like you go and you buy a few too many used items from Poshmark. Yeah.
Finances is actually a really important subject, and I think even religious people know that. I know a couple that was very religious, got married through their church, and the church had them take. When they were engaged, they took like classes at the church on, you know, living together and what a transition that would be. And a big part of that was finances.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are really great. Like people who get counseling before that stuff.
Yeah.
I have my own spreadsheets, but we probably, you know, one of the things that I felt really strongly about, and we've talked about this on the show before too, is just like I'm a lot cleaner and I have a much higher standard of cleanliness to live in and around to make me feel calm and safe. And we had a serious, we had a serious conversation before moving in where I said, like, this is a deal breaker for me and you cannot live like this. And
this.
What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Because I feel uncomfortable in your apartment.
Oh, my God. You're making it sound like I was like I had a nest. Come on. I can show you pictures of nests.
You know what? I'm just going to let you relive your fantasy there that you were a normal person. Anyway, so for these two non-married people, you know, I think we do pretty well. I don't know what would happen to your cats if we ever split up because they're bonded to me now.
Yeah, well, they're mine.
No, I like that you had.
What are we going to split Bentley's ashes?
If you want half of his ashes, I don't even know why I still have them. I don't know why I got them in the first place.
Because the vet was super nice,
I
and
know.
they gave you a little paw
I
print,
know.
and
I know. No, the paw print's cute. If the thing of
Yeah.
ashes, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Anyway, that is our episode for today. Thank you so much for listening. People Fuss is a tight knit production produced by Carrie Prince
and Doug Daniels.
And please share this episode on YouTube. Give us
Please
a thumbs up. Give us, tell your friends to subscribe. We like to spread the good word.
Leave a comment.
It's very hard to do. Leave a comment. We love some comments.
Let us know if you've been divorced.
Come on, divorcees and people who are in non-marriages.
Yay.
Come at us. No, we're ready for you. And then our cat fact of the day is that this morning, Yoshi likes to have cuddle time with me in the morning on the weekends because I get to not go to work super early, and so he has a little lap time with me. And this morning in his lap time, he looked exactly like the wolves that chill in the snow when they bury themselves in the snow and they're all chilled out. And I put it on Instagram. It was very cute.
Very cool.
He was like a wolf in the snow this morning.
Wolf in the snow.
Yep. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.